This is the last video I wanted to make right now, but just wanted to give some sort of update. I think for those who caught the health scare last year, it was almost about a year exactly, which kind of makes, I think, this video tougher. There was problems with shingles that eventually got to my eye, and the wild part is now looking back, that seems easier than what's going on now. But in a nutshell, there were more complications that came back from the original shingles that has kind of been going on over the last couple months. I'm not 100% sure exactly how it happened this time, because it was more, I think, from what I can tell at least, an immune response as opposed to another episode. It wasn't like I got shingles anywhere on my head or anything like I did last year. The tougher part this year, or this time around, is that there was scarring that occurred, and not only is it more formed and more permanent, but this time it's closer to the pupil, to where it actually bleeds over the pupil. So there's two circular scars that kind of cross into the pupil, which impacts the vision in a couple of different ways. I noticed something was off, I think probably in June, and something just didn't feel right in terms of my eye focusing. And again, there wasn't any external problems or anything that would alarm me to think it was the same thing, but I went and had it checked out, and everything seemed fine on the surface, aside from maybe some dry eye, but nothing looked too out of the ordinary. So between June and July was when it just seemed like it was getting worse, and I was persistent. I kept following up on it, and at some point, I think in mid-July, it was discovered that the scarring was there. So I'm not sure if it was a sense of it could happen, in that span from June to July, or potentially it was missed because it wasn't the same as last year. Because I think with the shingles in the eye, the positive there was that it was an active wound that had the potential to heal, and the goal there was to stop as much scarring as possible. Whereas this, again, the scarring has happened, so it's not as optimistic, I guess. And I think similar to last year, the biggest problem with this is there's no definitive answer, in the sense it's not that you can, like if you broke your leg, you get a diagnosis from the doctor that it's going to take 6 months or 12 months, and then things will be better. I think in this case, especially with the scarring, the hope is that it fades a bit over time. I don't think the expectation is that it will completely disappear, but this time it's just made it more challenging in the sense of obviously the location, and I think just functioning. And I think the kind of side effects of everything leading up with this has made things so challenging. After things had healed last year, there was still some slight scarring, and I would notice things from lights to bright situations where it would be a little more of a haze and a little bit of a glare. And this time around, it's more impactful in the sense that, one, because of the location, there's ghosting and halos. So with letters, you get kind of double versions of things. And with lights or LEDs or, a stoplight, those will sometimes double or triple, which has been frustrating. The other thing too is it now fluctuates the vision to where that kind of goes up and down. There's better moments, there's worse moments, but it feels like there's not really a constant. And I think learning now as well that my right eye, which is the one with the problems, that's my dominant eye, and something I didn't really ever think about prior to that, even last year, because I don't think it impacted it as heavily as it had now. But because of that, I think it's kind of created a whole, side sense of problems in terms of balance, and just kind of always feeling like you're on a boat and it's just this constant sense of slightly dizzy, slightly nauseous, and just kind of feeling like you're never truly balanced or center. Given what this is and what I do and what I've done, it's been hard to adjust just because I'm a very visual person, so it's hard not to notice it every second of every day. And I think that's been another side problem with it, is just the mental side, I think, has been equally as challenging, if not more, just because it's kind of always there. And, you know, you want to try to take your mind off of it and escape and work on something or watch something. And again, it's just kind of always there front and center. So no matter what you try and do, it's just kind of always there. And I think because of that, it's something that just doesn't leave your mind. And in my case, it's just something that I haven't yet been able to not fixate on. And again, I think it's the combination of everything. If it was just one thing, if it was just the ghosting and maybe the vision wasn't as bad, or maybe it wasn't the physical part of feeling off balance or feeling dizzy, or the mental side, if it was just one individually, I think it would be a little easier to deal with. But the fact that it kind of hits from all different angles, I think, is what's made it super challenging. Like I said, I've been trying to figure things out with this for a couple months now, and I think there was always the hope in the back of my mind that, you know, there would be a little bit more progress. And again, this is such a slow thing that it's felt like nothing, but also forever at the same time. And I think at this point, I just wanted to create some update. One, obviously, to let you know what's going on. I feel like it's just been frustrating in the sense of, for the past couple of years, if there was a bit of momentum and I was excited to get back into things, this happens last year and then this happens this year. So that part is frustrating. And so I just wanted to provide some context to that. And also just, I think I'm at the place where I've just been trying everything I can to get better or to make some strides or step forward. And, you know, I've toyed around with this idea for a while, but there's a, you know, fairly small team here, Stevie and Travis, who I think they've come such a long way, and to see the skill that they've continued to improve upon over the past couple of years has been cool to see. So Travis in particular, you've seen him probably back in an iPhone video, was one of his cameos, but he's pretty much my right-hand guy in terms of Apple and being able to nerd out and geek over that. And so I've had the idea of having him step in and to kind of fill things for a little while I hopefully figure things out. So I think if you see him pop up sooner probably than later, that's why. And just didn't want to have it drop out of nowhere and not have any context. Obviously, health is first, and I've been trying to do that and to do whatever I can again to make some progress. I can't not help but feel, again, bad for the lack of momentum. And I know there's brands and projects and things that haven't come out the way that I wanted to. The last LG video that I did, I think I shot it back in June or July, and it just recently came out. So again, I just also wanted to provide some context that, like, oh, hey, you just dropped this video, and things seem fine, and in reality, they're not. In a lot of ways, it kind of just feels like in Groundhog's Day, or it felt in a way. I always think back to Derrick Rose, his first knee injury, and then it happening again, and just, you know, what that would feel like to kind of go through hell twice. And yeah, it's just not super fun. But again, I just wanted to give some context to what's going on, where I've been, and just trying to get through this, which I think is, like I said, somehow more challenging than last year. And again, the fact that this makes last year seem easy just sounds like a crazy statement for me to say out loud. So just a little bit of an update for me. And like I said, I do think Travis can do an incredible job, and if you see him pop up, hopefully you guys enjoy those videos. This isn't necessarily a video in that I won't pop up. The last thing I want to do is just be stuck in this. So again, I keep hoping to get to a place to be able to do it comfortably. It's just been a situation where, like I said, you look at the screen, you look at your phone. Again, the inconsistency of everything, I think if I'm looking at something further away for a while, it makes focusing on things up close tough. If I'm looking at my phone, then it makes focusing on things further away hard. So it almost creates this kind of just, you're flinching, and you know, you get scared to look at your phone because then you don't want that to make the rest of the day worse. So it's just been this real uncomfortable kind of forced disconnect from everything. And again, it's not just the technology of a phone or a laptop. Something as simple as watching TV, and again, going back to the parallel physical side, if trying to exercise or to walk or to not be sensitive to the light, it just kind of all hits at once. So that's kind of where everything is at right now. Again, there is no true clear path for me as of now, in the sense that the scarring has already happened. I did start what would be called an experimental treatment. So for those who have had problems with scarring of the cornea or the eye, it's a more recent development, but I'll drop a link to the article down below. But losartan, which is a hypertension drug, they've done studies where turning it into a topical base, it's actually been shown to reduce scarring in the eye. So I know I've seen a couple posts on Reddit where people have asked about it, and there's really not much out there yet since it's so new. I had to get it compounded by a pharmacy, and I think that was really what pushed me over the edge to even give it a try, just because with scarring, it's less likely that it goes away fully, and again, the only hope is that it fades, where this seemed to be a shot at something more than just the current state. Obviously, with it being new, there's always that fear of it making things worse. I think in my case, I was scared to try it, but also at the same time, just given the specialists and the doctors that I've seen, it's much safer than trying to get surgery or laser off the scar, because in the case where you have shingles of the eye, if you laser it or do any kind of thing like that, it's almost a surefire way to activate things and make things worse, which is not anything that I want to try. I think what pushed me over the edge to try the losartan drops is I talked to the pharmacy that compounded it, and they were actually more insightful on anything that I've heard. So for anybody who happens to be looking into this, the general consensus was that they were shipping more and more of it each week, to the point where they're having to batch order it. There hasn't been really any negative feedback. They've heard a lot of positive feedback, to the point where even a doctor himself prescribed it for himself. had good results, and then prescribed it for his patients, and the fact that they're getting prescriptions refilled and they're seeing more and more of it kind of just pushed me over the edge to try it. I've been doing that for about 2 weeks now as of this video, and I think the positive is there's no burning or irritation, or it didn't seem to make things feel worse. Again, the fact that the vision fluctuates from day to day, you just kind of don't know what's what sometimes. But again, it didn't get to the point where it really aggravated things or made me feel uncomfortable with it. So it's too early to tell now if it makes any impact. I think even just looking at the studies, it's something that's going to take probably at least a month or two to really see if it had any impact. And the longer term studies are more in like the months kind of area. So just wanted to throw that little note out there, because I know myself, if you have this problem, A, there's not really many options to fix it. And B, even going back to last year, and I remember looking for things, this is something that kind of had developed and popped up, in between then. This wasn't even a thing back when the first episode happened. So for anybody who does have this or has struggled with it, this is also kind of a bit of the first bit of information on it from someone out there trying it and using it. So I did want to add that context, and hopefully there is some progress, and hopefully it does make some impact. But I will keep you guys posted on that along with everything else, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon.